Okay, so these are for the black and white cookies that we're doing in honor of Tanya because her favorite episode was the one with the black and white aliens. So I've got just basic sugar cookie mix, and I'm going to use 2 boxes of it. Each box requires 1 stick of butter and 1 egg. Since I'm doing 2 boxes, I have 2 sticks of butter, but I actually found it works better if you use half margarine, half butter. So that's what I'm going to be doing. 1 full stick of margarine, 1 full stick of butter for the 2 boxes, and I'm also going to take 2 eggs. I also discovered while I was doing this that it's easier to put the butter and this mix together with a fork and then blend the eggs in afterwards. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, at this point I have put the 2 sticks of butter in the bowl. Right there, you can see the stick of butter and also the 2 boxes of mix. And all I'm going to do is keep mushing this around until it turns into looking like pastry. If you've ever made a pie dough, that's what you're looking for, is that, blended together crumbly form from your cookie mix and your butter. Alright, so at this point I've used a fork like a pastry fork, to sit there and blend in the butter, and I've got this nice little consistency where it's all nice and crumbly on top, and that's what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to add the eggs to it. In adding the eggs, and like I said, it's going to take 2 eggs to do this. In adding the eggs, you don't want to put them in with the yolk all whole like that, because it'll be a lot harder to mix it up in there. So I use a little bowl, and I blend the eggs just like you're making scrambled eggs, although don't add the salt. And then, whoop, right in it goes. And now I'm going to mix that all together, and then I'll have my cookie dough all ready. And this is what it looks like when you're done mixing it. I've got all the eggs and the butter together. I've got the 2 boxes of mixes together. So I've got 2 batches of cookies. In order to cook them, I always use parchment paper, because parchment paper makes all of the cookies come off absolutely clean and beautifully. And you don't have to worry about having a super messy pan. You don't have to worry about greasing or buttering anything. It's just awesome and wonderful. So I'm just going to take my cookie dough, and I'm going to be using a teaspoon. I'm going to just take each one by a teaspoon and plop it down. I'll get about 8 per cookie sheet, and I'm going to sit here and bake these. Okay. Alright, that's the first 16 ready to go in, and they're going to go in the oven at 375. It is already preheated to 375, and then I'm going to let them cool. Okay, so the cookies are cooled, and ironically I had 42 of them, but I forgot about 2 in the oven, and so now I only have 40, but beside the point. This is for the frosting. This is for the black and white portion of it. We need powdered sugar for the white portion, cocoa powder for the black portion, and I'm going to use 2 different bottles to separate them in, so that I can have them, I can sit there and paint the cookies. You need aluminum foil to cover your countertop. They're going to drip through the cooling rack, and it's going to make a mess if you don't have something really sturdy between the cookies and the countertop. I did this the first time. I used paper towels, and it went right through the paper towel and stuck to the countertop, and it was just nasty. Anyway, you need 2 cups of confectioner's sugar, and you want to sift it. And the easiest way to sift it is to just use one of these little wire basket things. Get your 2 cups out. Once you have your 2 cups out, and powdered sugar, you're not going to stay clean. All right, it's going to go everywhere. You don't have a choice. It's the way it is. You pick up your sifter and you start beating on the side of it, and it makes all the powdered sugar go down into the bowl, all nicely sifted. When you're done sifting it, there's going to be plops of powdered sugar in the bottom left down in there. You can either force them through, or if you're not willing to force them through, if you just want to throw them away, that's fine too. But you don't want those big lumps inside the confectioner's sugar when you're trying to make a frosting out of it, because it's going to make the frosting lumpy. Okay. Alright, now what you want to do is you want to get the lemon juice and the corn syrup in there. It is 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of light corn syrup, and yes, you have to use the light corn syrup. The first time I did this, I thought, dark corn syrup, it's not going to make a difference. Yeah, it does. It makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference. So there's the 1 tablespoon, and just get over the fact that this stuff is incredibly viscous. So there's the 1 tablespoon. Now I need 1 teaspoon. So I've got 1 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon light corn syrup. And there it is. And then I need 2½ teaspoons of fresh lemon juice, but I'm only going to use 1½ teaspoon. and then put the rest in as water. I found it tastes better that way. And yeah, I know it's supposed to be fresh, but it's fresh lemon. Okay, there's the 1½ of lemon juice, and now I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of water. Okay, and now I just need to mix this up. What?
Say that.
Oh, it wasn't quite thin enough, so I added some more water to it. And you're just going to have to keep going with it, the consistency up till it looks right. But there is a way to tell when this actually does look right, so I'll let you know when we get there.
Say that again. Say it again.
Oh, that recipe must be off because it needed a lot more water than it said. I'm still mixing this up because you want to make sure it's mixed really well, and then you want to test it for its consistency. You want to make sure there isn't any stray pocket of confectioner's sugar sitting in the bottom going, ha ha ha, I'm going to mess up your recipe. All right, this goes off really fast, and it's off right now. The test for whether or not it's the right consistency is if you run the back of your spoon through it, you should not be able to see any portion of seam in it anymore after about 10 seconds. This is disappearing after about 2 seconds, which means that this is too thin. In order to make it thicker, I have to add more powdered sugar. Now when you add powdered sugar, you don't want to do it quickly because you don't want it to go off in the other direction, because like I said, this goes off really quickly, and you want to make sure that even if you're adding more, you still sift it through your sifter. You want to make sure that none of those lumps get down into your frosting, because it'll make your frosting lumpy and, quite frankly, not very pretty. Okay, this is almost perfect. See, if I put a scar in it and count to 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can still very faintly see the scar, but it's flattened out. I don't want to very faintly see the scar, so I'm just going to add the slightest bit of water more. Because remember, this goes off really fast. And just mix that in. And I know it only looked like I put in a couple drops, and that's really all I put in, because this mix goes off really fast. You want it just right, and the difference between just right and way too thin or way too thick is very little water. Alright, so here we go again. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. That's where we're going to leave it. Alright, at this point I'm going to transfer half of this into this bottle because I need half of it white and half of it black. So I'm just going to transfer half of this very carefully into this bottle. And this just takes time and patience. Alright, that's the last little bit in this bottle. And just a note on these bottles is you want to make sure you're using food grade plastic. Don't just pick up any old squeeze bottle you find anywhere. Because if it's not food grade plastic, you could be contaminating what you're eating. These are actually Wilton candy making ones. And the Wilton design, I got them both in the same packet. I mean, it was just like $1 a bottle. But you want to make sure, like I said, that you're using food grade plastic. Alright, now I need to make the other half of this black. So we're going to use unsweetened cocoa powder, and you want just a tablespoon of it. I don't actually have a tablespoon measuring, but I'm going to use a little less than 1/8 of a cup, which should be just about right. Unfortunately, adding powder is going to make the mix off again, so I'm going to have to go back and do the little water thing and make sure that I have it done correctly again, so that I have the right consistency, so that they both pour out of the bottle in just the right manner and just the right way. All right, now this is what it looks like, and this is where you'd stop if you were just making black and tan cookies or black and white cookies. But this isn't dark enough for me because the Star Trek episode, I mean, it was really a dark, dark black and then the white. So I'm actually going to add a couple drops of black food coloring. I have not added any water to this yet. And you'll notice that the consistency is way off. See how long it takes for that seam to close up again? So I'm going to start by adding the food coloring because that's going to add some liquid. Oops. Yeah. It would really help if I took off the inner seal on the food coloring bottle. Now this is black food coloring. Do not get this anywhere because it will stain and it is a dark, dark color. So I'm going to start with just 4 drops. Actually, I'm going to start with 3 drops. And mix that in and see if that's the consistency that I want. And if it's not the consistency or the color, I'll add more food coloring. Yeah, I'm going to need more food coloring. I'm going to need at least 1 more drop. And if it's still not the consistency that I need it to be, then I'll add more water. Got it. Okay, I've added 15 drops of food coloring now, and I've gotten it to a color that's not quite as dark as I'd like it to be, but it's about as dark as I can get it. But you can see the consistency is still way too thick. So I still have to add more water to it. Again, add it slowly, just a little at a time, because this gets off the right consistency so very fast. And at this point, if I add any more powdered sugar, it's going to make it a lighter color, and I don't want that. So I've added just maybe a teaspoon of water. Now all I'm going to do is put the other half of this frosting into the other bottle, and then it's time to paint the cookies. And as you can see, I did not separate them evenly. I've got far more of the black than I do of the white, but it should still be enough to do all these cookies, since I only have 40 cookies. So all there is to it is you pick up one of the colors. I'm just going to start with the white. I can pull the lid off. And then you shake it down, and you want to use one color all the way through and then go back and do the other color so they're not going up and down and up and down, and you're not pushing bubbles into it. But you just draw a line all the way around the edge of the cookie. We're going to let that set up just a little bit so that when I go back and flood the rest of the coloring in there, it won't, hopefully, go beyond the line that I've created. So you're just outlining the center and then the edge of the cookie. Just like so. Alright, so now I have finished those. I've outlined all of them, and you can, if you listen carefully, you can hear the piping dripping down onto the aluminum foil underneath. That's why you really want to make sure you have something that's not going to stick to the countertop underneath the cookies. But now it's time to flood them. And when I tried flooding one with just the bottle without having cut it, it didn't flood correctly. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the top of the bottle stem here so that it'll flood better and make the opening just a little bit wider. So I cut just the tiniest bit off the top. And I got to wait for it to come back down. And now it floods that area much better. And all I'm going to do is finish flooding all the white cookies. Okay, so it turns out that I doubled my batch of cookies, but did not double my batch of frosting, so I ran out of the white frosting. I'm going to have to make more, but I thought I'd finish showing you how to do the frosting portion. And again, it's just following the same line with the black icing on the other side, and then flooding it in, and then you end up with your black and white cookies. So I'm going to make more frosting, and we'll have a picture of them all done and ready when we get to con, and we'll have them there for you to peruse and sample and have a little memoriam for Tanya. But there we go.